Port of Mauritius registers record operations and announces major projects to increase handling capacity and boost competitiveness. The chairman of the MPA gives us insights in this edition of Business Connect. The Association of Mauritian Manufacturers sees broader opportunities as Africa opens its borders to investment. Kenya is the first step in the African endeavor. We talk to Bruno Dubarry, the director of the AMM. And Airbus announced that it will stop producing A380 aircraft by 2021, as it has not proved to be profitable to the company.
The Mauritius Ports Authority plays a very big role in the country. The port contributes massively towards the economic growth of the country. And as of the 30th of June 2018, they have recorded record figures. For example, 7.7 million tons in terms of turnover, representing a 1.6% increase. There was also a 3.8% in terms of captive containers and an 8% increase in terms of transshipment. And the following year looks as promising, if not better. Let's have a look. Mr. Ramalingam Mestri, you're the chairman of the MPA, and the year ending 30th June 2018 has been a record year for the MPA.
Yes, indeed.
Please tell us about the 7.7 million tons of turnover which has been achieved in the year 2017-18.
In the 7.7 million tons comprising the containerized cargo, the dry bulk cargo, the liquid bulk cargo and the fish traffic, which has made a good record for the financial year 2017 to 2018. And now we are expecting better results for the current year. And for the last 6 months of the current financial year, that is from the 1st July 2018 up to the 31st December 2018, we have already recorded a positive result. The total trade volume achieved for the first 6 months of present financial year comes to 4.31 million tons.
How has the inauguration of the new container terminal in the port affected the transshipment in the port?
Yes, of course. The huge investment which has been put in the modernization of the port infrastructure, and today we start reaping the very good results, and we have seen since the beginning of the new financial year there is a new trend, meaning that we are getting more and more volume, and because the capacity or the port capacity has been increased, and we are expecting that this increase will keep on going. Very recently, the Cargo Handling Corporation has recruited more than 100 new people and has increased the human capacity. And with this new human capacity, we're expecting greater results in the coming weeks. And what we have achieved up to the 31st December is an indication that we are keeping moving ahead, that is achieving 1 million TEUs by 2020.
With the Mauritius Ports Authority wanting to become a reference in the region in terms of transshipment till the 31st of December 2018, how are the figures looking?
Yeah, it's quite good. It's quite interesting. And for the transshipment containers, we have achieved 86.7% increased, and for the same year, same corresponding period of the financial year 2017, it was 58,440 TEUs, and for the last 6 months of the current financial year, we have grown up to 109,018 9 TUs, meaning 86.7 increased. It's amazing.
With this current trend, do you think that we are heading towards another record year?
Of course, we expect better results. Better results because, as I mentioned earlier, with the additional human capacity, we are expecting that the total throughput will substantially increase, and we're going to have a better results comparing to last financial year.
What are the major projects that are upcoming for the Mauritius Ports Authority in the year 2019?
Yes, based on the vision of the government, 2013, we have commissioned a port master plan which has been made public last year. And in the port master plan, several projects are being underlined to improve growth. There will be a breakwater structure which is becoming one of the major projects. We have already undergone a full study on this project by Wallace Conning, and we are expecting the report next week. And afterwards, the report will be submitted to the government, and we are going to know what will be the future steps to be taken. But we are quite sure that this break structure, the new island containers terminal, will be very helpful for the future development, because the actual port facilities, according to the port master plan, will be saturated by 2021, and we badly need to construct new port facilities. And this is why the port master plan is proposing to set up a new island containers terminal comprising 3 components: the breakwater, the dredging works, and a quay of 1.2 kilometers length. And this will improve Port Louis Harbour capacity up to 1.5 million TEUs additional, which will bring our total capacity existing 1 million TEUs, and the new island containers terminal 1.5 TEUs, which bring the total capacity to 2.5 TEUs. Will make, of course, Port Louis more competitive in this region and make it really a platform of distributing to the different parts of the region. And secondly, we have the fishing port. The fishing port will be constructed in the new reclaimed area at Fort William. As you know, actually the fishing port at Trou-Fanfaron is saturated. Trou-Fanfaron then will be liberated, which will of course accommodate other activities. It will transform as a historical place, because as you know, a privacy gate is nearby. There will be slavery museum, as mentioned by the Prime Minister. He is very determined to go ahead with the slavery museum at this place, nearby a privacy gate, and the other places will be transformed into leisure, cultural, historical places, interface with the inhabitants of Port Louis.
You have just spoken about the fishing port. What would be the main features that would be included?
There will be, as I mentioned, there will be a fishing station which will accommodate 125 fishing vessels. Then we are going to have a quay, length of 300 meters, liner meters. And of course, there will be the fishing station, the quay, and of course there will be a lot of associated activities with the fishing port. And what we are going to do also on this site will be a dry dock activity. We have two main players actually, and with the growing demand, and we're expecting a lot of vessels coming, and we need a third player.
Apart from the fishing port, what other major projects are upcoming by the MPA?
One of the projects which is very ambitious project is the cruise terminal building. We have made the first attempt, but unfortunately we have not obtained the appropriate contractor respecting both the technical and the financial bids. And now we are relaunching the bids, which will be by end of this month, and we're expecting the construction to start by May this year. And this will be a very interesting project. It will be an iconic building based on the same system of the airport system, the same system. And this will provide many facilities for the tourists coming by boat, the cruises. And we're expecting substantial increase of cruises in the years ahead. And we have made a very good record last year. We have achieved, in terms of arrival, an increase of 50%, meaning that a lot of prospect in this field.
European aircraft manufacturer Airbus announced it will end production of the A380 double-decker passenger jet by 2021. The Franco-German company had hoped the Super Jumbo would challenge Boeing's 747 and revolutionize air travel in the 21st century. Without Emirates, Airbus has no substantial order backlog and no basis to sustain A380 production after 2021, said Guillaume Faure, who is taking over as Airbus CEO from Tom Enders this spring. The announcement was made alongside the news that Airbus net profit had risen 29% in 2018 after strong demand for its smaller planes. Airbus managed to make these profits despite 899 million euros in losses from the A380 aircraft. Stuck between an endless waitlist for a government job and a frail private sector, Iraqi entrepreneurs are taking on staggering unemployment by establishing their own startups. Now with IS defeated, co-working spaces and incubators are flourishing in a country whose unemployment rate hovers around 10%, but whose public sector is too bloated to hire. Youth make up around 60% of Iraq's nearly 40 million people. More than 65% of Iraq's GDP and nearly 90% of state revenues hail from the oil sector. Many youth turn to it for work, but it only employs 1% of the workforce.
Mr. Jubari, you're the director of the AMM, Association of Mauritian Manufacturers. And we've often seen the AMM being associated to the label Made in Maurice. So what exactly does your association do? Who do you represent?
Well, the Association of Mauritian Manufacturers exists for 25 years now. It was created at a moment where Mauritius was in fact liberalizing a maximum of tariff lines and opening its market to foreign products. And at that time, well, the main producers in Mauritius that had been, most of them created at the moment of the import substitution after the independence, needed an organization that would represent their interests and facilitate the transition towards liberalization of the tariff lines. And at that moment, so that was the main interest, the main objective of the association. And throughout time, obviously the members had other issues which were out to promote our local products. how to promote our know-how, how to prepare ourselves maybe to regionalize and export our products. So, well, naturally the association supported these needs, these new needs for the companies, and for that reason we've moved towards training, facilitating innovation, supporting exports projects, and all started with the Made in Maurice label, which was in fact the first national project of the Association of Mauritian Manufacturers, and that last year has celebrated its 5 years of existence with about 85 members, whereas the Association of Mauritian Manufacturers has about 75 members, which are all manufacturers and services to industry, manufacturing. The Made in Maurice label for itself is open on a larger scale in terms of production. We have artists, writers, singers, but in any case we evaluate, let's say, the entrepreneurship. From the very beginning, when they're interested to join with the Made in Maurice, there is a series of steps which include an application form, which is obviously quite simple, but what becomes interesting for the company is that we have a partnership with SGS, which is the audit company that has been at the side of the Made in Maurice label from the very beginning, and which at some step, the second step of the procedure, goes into the company with the Made in Maurice and just evaluates what is going on. Is it perfect or not perfect? It's never perfect, but in fact what is interesting for the company is that they have full advices on how to improve their production, their safety, the quality of management of their personnel, the relationship with the customers, well, all sorts of good practices that from time to time we have been able to benchmark, since we have now 85 companies. And well, the company coming out from this audit is able to know quickly if she's up to entering the Made in Maurice, or if she has a little bit of homework and just improve on specifics. And well, for the time being it has worked.
Now, you've been talking that the AMM was created at a time where there was the liberalization of market, Mauritian market. Now we're talking about liberalization of the world trade. So where does Mauritius find itself in the local market, and what is the strategy to make the members of your association grow and sustain themselves, first of all?
Yeah, well, fortunately companies are still optimistic and they're still fighting to adapt, in fact, to a changing domestic market, because in fact it never stops changing. You have always new players coming in, and unfortunately not all the players are abiding by the rules that in fact Mauritius is imposing to its local production. And the challenge is, how do you maintain a level playing field for your local production, which abides today to all these regulations, quite frankly, and even more, being certified and with international standards and ISOs. But how do you get back to a level playing field? This is a problem today, because many of the companies that are fully into trade don't have the same level of expectation from authorities, and that is, well, that remains in fact the main subject of all of our campaign. Even if last year we've heard some very positive announcements on the control on imported products and on the quality and the information and all sorts of regulations related to the Food Act, we still see that in fact the burden on local producers is not helping them to in fact transform and somehow really seize all the opportunities of exports also. This is why they really need to have an organization, the Association of Mauritian Manufacturers, which with its partners, public and private, is able to support them in all sorts of new endeavors.
Government is talking about the Africa strategy. Everyone wants to go to Africa. Where does the AMM see this strategy and where are we leading it?
All stakeholders have their responsibilities, and our responsibility is just to not create what already exists or just get into competition with public programs or other private sector programs. We're just trying to do some tailor-made approaches and projects for our members. And in fact, we have 12 people and about 10 companies that are going to do this trip by the end of the week until the 21st of February in Kenya, Nairobi. And what was interesting for them was that even if they had done 8-10 trips during the last years, the fact of being together and having something tailor-made was new. And the fact of creating a collective spirit around exports between manufacturers is also new. We've had ourselves, the AMM and Made in Maurice, been using the expertise of someone specifically trained into accompanying and companies on their projects at exports for 1 year now. And he's the one who's set up the mission for us in Kenya.
We've heard those forecasts of 3.9% growth rate, and we see the input of services in the Mauritian economy. How does the manufacturing sector contribute? How strong is our local manufacturing sector?
Well, the local industry is still performing at about 40 billion rupees in the GDP, which is about 10% of the GDP, which is just something. It still means something. And if you look at the figures regarding the jobs, well, the manufacturing sector is the first employer, but the local manufacturing is more important than export-oriented enterprises. So it does have a responsibility for the stability of social and economic environment, and this is why we are so into pushing for social and environmental responsibility at a level which would allow our companies to again answer to the new needs and expectations from the public and their consumers, and also to just differentiate our products from imported products. If you're not able to always play on the prices and the brands, which obviously you don't have in all cases equivalent budgets to market your products and brands, how do you differentiate yourself? So this is where we have a lot of work to do, and we believe that the Association of Mauritian Manufacturers and the Made in Maurice label serving as a platform for collaborative projects is probably the best approach to these challenges.
Now, we've often seen that there's a lack of skilled labor in the market, especially in the manufacturing industry. We're taking to foreign laborers, and where does the job go, and what about our local people?
I believe there are two subjects in this challenge. We have the local industry and we have the export-oriented industry. In the first case, well, we still have a majority of Mauritian being employed in the companies, whereas in the second case, it was developed to, in fact, have low value added products, but in very large volume for specific demands of other countries. And I believe that the export-oriented enterprises are themselves going into a transformation. They're reprocessing themselves and their business models. So, well, in this changing environment, obviously the key element to differentiate our companies is our skills. In fact, in manufacturing, you have to be good everywhere. You can't make it if you're weak at some point. So you have to be excelling every time, everywhere. This is the hard part of the job. But in fact, this is why the industry has been still operating for 50 years.
Now, when we see all those uncertainties in the world regarding Brexit, for example, we don't know where the trade war between US and China is going to end, and how does our local manufacturing sector stand?
You know, there was a really interesting study that came out from the MCB recently, which was Local is Beautiful. It was done by the Utopie cabinet, which has also worked with the Made in Maurice on the occasion of the 5 years of the label. And obviously, they are giving figures of things that we've been pushing for years and really for us that are vital. So I would even say local is vital because, as you said, in a period of uncertainty, how do you cope with the risks? You have to have a minimum of independence. How do you maintain on your own territory the right level playing field? Just to understand that some companies or some activities are essential, are vital.
So that's it for this edition of Business Connect. Find this program on our website and also follow us on our Facebook page. We'll be here next week on the same channel. Till then, it's goodbye.